So tell us what Emma is. If you could just give us a high level overview and pitch, if you will. What is Emma in 3 sentences?
Yeah, sure. So Emma is a cloud equalizer that helps companies to manage, deploy, and maintain the different um, applications and the workloads into the clouds, no matter what the cloud service provider is the under is the underlying. So that's the goal of the platform. So the comprehensive cloud platform that addresses all the multi-cloud pitfalls and pain points that customers have.
And what would you say is Emma's major competitive advantages? What makes it unique?
Uh, as an engineer, even if my first manager thought that I'm not that good engineer, I started with the foundations. So I have analyzed all the other companies on the market who address the multi-cloud um, problems, let's say. And I understood that all these guys, they try to solve the niche, really niche and narrow problems. And the problem is that the multi-cloud world and multi-cloud universe is broader. And we started with the foundations. So we've built the comprehensive network connectivity that connects all the cloud service providers we have under the platform, providing the comprehensive network and backbone connectivity. And on top of this network, we provide the ability to deploy the apps, instances, clusters, and all this stuff that we have at Emma. So that's the thing that makes us unique. So that's the pure the pure equalizer. So the platform that equalizes all the clouds through this networking backbone and allows you to deploy anything on top. So the pure overlay, let's say.
I'm guessing that there's probably some pretty interesting technical specs of that backend network. Can you speak a little bit about the capabilities of that interconnect?
Yeah, sure. So we can provide our customers with a networking backbone that supports the data transfers and provides the ability and capabilities to deploy let's say the multi-cloud clusters with the let's say internal connectivity on a speed up to 400 gigabits per second per customer. So that's really fast. We had our internal POC where we had like the huge distributed Kubernetes cluster where the master nodes were located somewhere in Europe and the worker nodes were distributed between Asia Pacific region, United States of America, South Africa, and Europe. And that was the real time working cluster with the auto scaling that could scale up and down depending on the workload. So that's the capabilities of our network.
I know that you can do VM transfers between clouds, and I think that's a phenomenal capability. I can see a lot of interest in that. Does that mean that you're using that backbone to do the transfer, or are you doing it really through like infrastructure as code paradigms?
We actually do both. So what we need to understand that Emma is a platform that is built like the modular system. So we have the API gateway as a central tool, and we have the different services in, let's say, user space. We also provide our customers with the automation tools. So we have the Terraform provider, and Terraform that will interact with our API gateway, and also through the Terraform provider and through our API gateway, through our CLI, we have our own CLI tool. you can also do the transfers. And we definitely use our own networking backbone to transfer the data between the VMs. But the transfers of the VMs we do, let's say, with our own tools and our own engine we have invented. Because actually, it really depends on a cloud service provider. You have as a data source, and the provider you have as a destination, because every time these providers and all these let's say processes, they're pretty different, and you need to figure out the relevant set of tools you need to use to make this transfer happen. So that's what we've been able to automate with Emma as well. But this is not what you are doing every day. But anyway, it's a nice to have feature to support your, let's say, migrations.
You mentioned auto scaling too. So I seem to remember that you have like an interesting scaler, maybe a predictive scaler. Can you tell us a little bit about how that works? I think it was machine learning based, right?
Yeah, that's true. So we have our own managed Kubernetes service in a multi-cloud. What does this really mean? You can deploy your distributed cluster, as I told you. So you build deploy your master nodes in Europe, your worker nodes in the Asia Pacific, United States, and also there is an autoscaler part. So you can scale your cluster depending on the workloads, depending on the analysis that we provide you using our machine learning algorithm, which actually can predict the growth of workloads and the usage of your resources. And then we can extrapolate this into the future, and then we can find you the best available option to scale on the market. So for instance, it could be like the spot instance at Google Cloud, somewhere in Virginia. It will be the cheapest available option based on your request. So it should contain the number of the CPUs, RAM, and the storage, whatever. But when we feel and we see that your cluster needs to scale based on the workloads, it will scale on this spot instance. And if this spot instance is taken away, we will rescale your cluster to the other similar spot instance somewhere, let's say at Asia and South Africa or whatever else. So we always will be fitting your budget with our autoscaler.
Yeah, like a cross-cloud calculator. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. And I guess pertaining somewhat to that is the idea of this marketplace and the services that you have. So you're able to chain services together, and perhaps that's part of this overall scaling solution as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So we have a different set of tools. So we have the services like the compute resources, plain VMs, let's say. We also have the Kubernetes. We also have the backup, the networking part. And on top of that, we have our eStore. So this is the marketplace of applications where you can grab the app you need from the different verticals, categories like security, DevOps, networking, and analytics or whatever. And then you can deploy this app based on your requirements. So if you want to have a disaster recovery database, you can deploy this database with the primary and the secondary node located at the different cloud service providers, and even in different regions, so to avoid any outages. Yeah, so that's why we have this underlying networking backbone that supports all these things. That's why we started with this foundation.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that sounds really smart. So we've been talking about cloud capabilities, but you're actually not limited to that. So you also have, I think, what are referred to as private accounts. So for something like VMware, you can actually integrate with the APIs that are exposed by vSphere ESX. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. It's more about vSphere. So we work with EA6i right now as well, but basically we started with vSphere because we address the mature companies and the enterprises who have hardly invested for the decades in the hardware and the legacy solutions. And excuse me, the VMware is a top legacy hypervisor, right? So we realized this, and we decided to build kind of a connector to the private accounts of our customers to help them to simplify their lives. So they can now with these connectors lift and shift their workloads into the public clouds. And we support them not only with this connector, but also with what we have already discussed. I mean, the ability to make these cloud transfers. So you can just transfer your VMs and the workloads from one, let's say, service provider. And for us, the vSphere is a kind of a service provider to another, let's say, AWS, Azure, Google, any other public cloud.